In the wealthiest corners of Lagos, where power ruled and money spoke louder than morals, one name echoed among women like a whispered legend: Big Daddy K. To his business associates he was Mr. Williams, a billionaire whose empire stretched across industries, real estate, oil, banking. But to women he was the man who could change lives overnight. Lavish gifts, exotic vacations, stacks of crisp naira notes, enough to drown in. They came to him willingly, desperate for a taste of the luxury he provided. None of them knew what awaited them. All anyone knew about him was that he was amazing in bed. He had this intense masculine energy that could give a woman an incredible orgasm with just a few thrusts. Women would spend the night with him and then brag to their friends about how generous he was, and how he drove them wild like no other man could. None of them realized what had pleasured them in the night, what had driven them to the peak of ecstasy, was not a man. It was a snake. A living, breathing, cursed serpent fused to his body. His manhood was a serpent. It slid into them unseen, through their skin, their blood, their souls, and fed. By the time the venom took hold, by the time the whispers of pleasure turned into agonizing pain, it was too late. They were marked for death. And when they perished, Big Daddy K's wealth grew. Big Daddy K never chased women. He didn't need to. He sat back and watched as many Lagos big girls came to him, drawn like moths to a flame. They heard the stories, saw the evidence, how one girl met him for dinner and the next day was driving a brand new Range Rover. How another vanished for a weekend, only to return draped in gold and silk, her bank account overflowing. But here's the weird thing, none of these women stuck around for long. They'd all die under mysterious circumstances and no one could figure out why. No one questioned it. Because money silenced curiosity. Tonight he was meeting a new girl. A bold, confident university student named Sandra. Unlike the naive girls he usually lured in, Sandra was different. She had a sharp tongue, a calculating mind. She didn't just want his money, she wanted power. That made her dangerous. But even dangerous women could be broken. The rooftop of the Zenith Hotel was reserved for the wealthiest men in Lagos. Sandra had never stepped into a place so extravagant. Everything was gold, velvet, and crystal. And there he was, Big Daddy K. Older, powerful, dangerous. His tailored silk kaftan draped over his broad frame, his eyes studying her like a predator watching prey. "You're nervous," he said, watching her over his whiskey glass. Sandra smirked. "I don't get nervous." His lips curled at the corners. Good. Dinner was a blur. The most expensive wine, plates of food she couldn't pronounce, conversation that felt like a slow, calculated game. Before she could overthink, his driver was escorting her into a black Mercedes. And soon she was standing in the penthouse of the Grand Sapphire Hotel. The suite smelled of leather, cologne, and something else, something ancient. Big Daddy K stood near the floor-to-ceiling window, sipping his drink, watching her. "You're nervous again," he said. Sandra laughed. "I already told you I don't get." He kissed her. And the world fell apart. Sandra had kissed men before. But never like this. The second his lips touched hers, a wave of heat surged through her. Her head spun. Her knees buckled. The pleasure was instant, overwhelming. Her body arched, desperate. Felt too good. Too intense. Like she was being consumed. She moaned helplessly, her hands tangling in his silk robe. She had never felt anything like this. And she didn't want it to stop. But she didn't know. Didn't know that what she was feeling wasn't natural. Didn't know that something inside her had awakened. Something alive. By morning she was alone in bed. Big Daddy K was gone. But the pleasure still lingered. She touched her lips, remembering the way he kissed her, the way he made her feel. Then she sat up. And her stomach lurched. The nausea hit her suddenly. She barely made it to the bathroom before vomiting violently. Thick, black bile splattered into the sink. It writhed. Like it was alive. Sandra screamed. And in that moment she knew the truth. She had been marked. For most women, the venom would have consumed them within days. But Sandra was different. Something in her rejected it. Not completely, she still suffered. Sandra didn't die immediately like the others because her spirit was stronger than most women he had encountered. Unlike the naive girls who blindly surrendered to pleasure, Sandra was spiritually protected, not by prayers or faith, but by an inner resistance she didn't even know she had. Something in her bloodline, something in her destiny, made her body reject the full effects of the curse. She still felt the pleasure. She still left that night weak, changed, marked. But when the venom tried to consume her, it couldn't take hold completely. It struggled. It lingered. Instead of dying within days, she became sick but survived. She wasn't safe, but she was alive. and that meant she could fight back.